You know Charles "Sleeveless" Cimino as the tattooed wiring specialist from Gas Monkey Garage. But did you know this automotive acrobat once performed backflips off burning trucks, started working on cars in 6th grade, or that his electronics background came from installing commercial AV equipment in massive facilities? From his mysterious departure to his current Mustang restoration work in Arizona, Sleeveless had more secrets than you'd expect. Here are 15 things you never knew about Charles Cimino from Fast and Loud. Fact 1. Started in 6th grade. Most people think about their first car when they turn 16, but Charles Cimino was already deep into the world of automotive repair years before most kids even knew what a carburetor was. Charles began working on cars when he was just in the 6th grade, which would have made him around 11 or 12 years old at the time. This incredibly early start gave him a massive head start in developing the mechanical skills that would eventually land him a spot at one of the most famous custom car shops in America. While other kids his age were playing video games or riding bikes around the neighborhood, Charles was getting his hands dirty under the hood, learning the basics of how engines worked and figuring out what made cars tick. This wasn't just a casual hobby either. It was the beginning of what would become his lifelong passion and career. Starting so young meant that by the time Charles graduated high school, he already had several years of real hands-on experience that most people don't get until they're adults. The fact that Charles dove into automotive work at such a young age also explains why he became so skilled at the technical aspects of car restoration. When you start learning something as complex as automotive mechanics in 6th grade, you have years and years to build up that knowledge and develop an intuitive understanding of how vehicles work. This early foundation is what made him such a valuable member of the Gas Monkey Garage team, particularly when it came to the intricate wiring and electrical work that many mechanics find challenging. After high school, Charles continued honing his skills by working at various local garages around the Dallas area, but that 6th grade start was what set everything in motion. It's pretty remarkable when you think about it. Most people barely know how to change a tire when they first start driving. But Charles had already been fixing cars for years by that point. This early passion for automotive work would eventually lead him through various garage jobs until his old friend Aaron Kaufman reached out and got him the opportunity that would change his life at Gas Monkey Garage. Fact 2. The AV equipment background. Before Charles Cimino became known as the wiring specialist at Gas Monkey Garage, he had a completely different career that might surprise fans who only know him from his automotive work. Charles spent years working for a commercial audio-visual company, where his job involved traveling to large facilities and installing all kinds of high-tech equipment, including televisions, cameras, and complex network-related systems. This wasn't the kind of small-scale home installation work that most people think of when they hear about AV technicians. Charles was dealing with massive commercial setups in big buildings and corporate facilities. During his time in the commercial AV world, Charles developed an incredibly strong background in electronics and electrical systems, which required him to understand how different types of technology work together and how to properly wire complex installations. He had to learn how to read technical diagrams, understand signal routing, and troubleshoot electrical problems when systems weren't working correctly. The job also meant he was constantly working with his hands, connecting cables, mounting equipment, and making sure everything was properly grounded and functioning safely. What made this experience so valuable for his later automotive career was that modern cars are packed with electronic systems that operate very similarly to the commercial AV equipment Charles had been installing for years. When he eventually made the transition to working on cars at Gas Monkey Garage, all that knowledge about electrical systems, wiring harnesses, and troubleshooting electronic problems translated perfectly to automotive work. Charles himself explained this connection in an interview, saying that his background in electronics was kind of a good segue into his job at the garage. This unusual career path actually made Charles particularly valuable at Gas Monkey. because, while many mechanics are great with engines and mechanical components, fewer have the deep understanding of electrical systems that Charles brought from his AV installation days. His ability to handle the complex wiring jobs that came up during custom builds was directly tied to those years he spent crawling around commercial buildings with cables and electronic equipment. Fact 3. Aaron Kaufman's old friend. Charles Cimino didn't get his dream job at Gas Monkey Garage through a typical hiring process or by answering a job posting instead. He got the opportunity through a friendship that had been building for years before Fast and Loud was even a concept. Charles and Aaron Kaufman first met sometime around 1999 or 2000, which means their friendship goes back over 2 decades and predates Aaron's famous partnership with Richard Rawlings by several years. The two men didn't just know each other casually either. They had a real working relationship that involved building things together and sharing their passion for automotive projects. Charles explained in interviews that he and Aaron had a long history of hanging out and building stuff together, and they had actually worked at a couple of different shops before Aaron eventually made his way to Gas Monkey Garage. This shared work experience meant that Aaron already knew exactly what Charles was capable of and understood his skills with electrical systems and fabrication work. When Gas Monkey Garage started expanding and needed more skilled mechanics to handle their increasingly complex builds, Aaron reached out to his old friend Charles and helped him get his foot in the door. Charles has been very open about the fact that his job at the garage was probably due to his relationship with Aaron, and he's expressed gratitude for how Aaron helped him reconnect with automotive work after his years in the commercial audiovisual industry. This friendship connection also explains why Charles fit in so well with the Gas Monkey crew from the very beginning. He wasn't coming in as a complete stranger, trying to prove himself to a new team. Instead, he already had that established relationship with Aaron, who was one of the most respected and talented members of the shop. Having Aaron vouch for him and knowing they could work well together made Charles's transition into the Gas Monkey world much smoother than it might have been otherwise. The friendship between Charles and Aaron shows how important personal connections can be in the automotive world, where trust and knowing someone's work ethic really matter. Fact 4. Acrobatic show-off. Charles Cimino proved he was more than just a skilled mechanic when he pulled off one of the most outrageous stunts ever captured in Gas Monkey Garage, promotional content, AR. Performing a backflip off a pickup truck that was actively doing a burnout. This incredible feat was featured in a Meet the Monkeys video that Gas Monkey produced to introduce fans to their crew members, and it perfectly showcased the wild, daredevil side of Charles's personality that viewers didn't always get to see during regular episodes of Fast and Loud. The stunt itself was absolutely insane when you think about the timing and coordination required to pull it off safely. Picture a pickup truck spinning its wheels and creating clouds of smoke from burning rubber. And then imagine someone using that moving, smoking vehicle as a launching pad for an acrobatic backflip. Most people would consider this incredibly dangerous, but Charles treated it like just another day at the shop, demonstrating the kind of fearless attitude that made him such an entertaining cast member. This backflip stunt became one of the most memorable moments in Gas Monkey's behind-the-scenes content, because it showed a completely different side of Charles compared to his usual role as the quiet, focused wiring specialist. While fans were used to seeing him working methodically on electrical systems and fabrication projects, this promotional video revealed that he had serious athletic abilities and wasn't afraid to show off when the cameras were rolling. The video was part of Gas Monkey's efforts to give fans more personal insight into their crew members, and Charles's backflip definitely accomplished that goal. It became a talking point among Fast and Loud fans who were amazed that the same guy who could carefully wire complex electrical systems could also perform gymnastic stunts off moving vehicles. The stunt perfectly captured the high-energy, anything-goes atmosphere that made Gas Monkey Garage such a unique workplace. where skilled craftsmen weren't afraid to have fun and show their personalities alongside their professional abilities. Fact 5. The Sleeveless Origin Story. Charles Cimino's famous nickname Sleeveless didn't come from some dramatic moment or inside joke at Gas Monkey Garage. It actually has the most practical and straightforward origin story you could imagine. Charles started cutting the sleeves off his t-shirts long before he ever appeared on Fast and Loud, and he did it for purely functional reasons, rather than trying to create any kind of image or persona for television. The whole thing began because Charles found that wearing regular t-shirts with full sleeves made him feel restricted and uncomfortable when he was working on cars, especially when he had to reach into tight spaces or move his arms around complex engine components. Anyone who has ever worked on cars knows how important it is to have full range of motion in your arms and shoulders, and Charles discovered that removing the sleeves from his shirts gave him the freedom of movement he needed to do his job effectively. What started as a simple comfort modification became Charles's signature look over time. And he continued wearing sleeveless shirts even when the Fast and Loud cameras started rolling. He explained in interviews that cutting off the sleeves made him feel easy and comfortable while working, which was more important to him than following any particular dress code or trying to look a certain way on television. The nickname stuck so well that fans and fellow cast members rarely called him by his actual first name, and Sleeveless became his official identity both at Gas Monkey Garage and on the show. What makes this origin story even more interesting is that Charles didn't try to create some elaborate backstory or mysterious explanation for his unusual fashion choice. He was completely straightforward about the fact that it was purely practical. His arms were also covered with tattoos, which became more visible once he started wearing sleeveless shirts all the time, giving him a distinctive appearance that made him instantly recognizable to Fast and Loud viewers. The combination of the sleeveless shirts and his tattoo-covered arms created a memorable visual that helped Charles stand out among the Gas Monkey crew, all because he wanted to feel more comfortable while working on cars. Fact 6. Only 6 episodes. Despite becoming a fan favorite and developing a memorable on-screen presence that made viewers want to see more of him, Charles Cimino actually appeared in just 6 episodes of Fast and Loud during his entire run on the show from 2015 to 2017. This surprisingly small number makes him one of the shortest tenured cast members in the show's history, especially considering how much impact he made during his brief time in front of the cameras. Charles made his debut appearance in an episode called Rocking 76G10 Van in 2015, where he joined the Gas Monkey crew as they worked to transform a $300 roadside find into a 1976 exploration van. From that first episode, viewers could see that Charles brought a unique combination of technical skills and entertaining personality that made him stand out among the garage's mechanics, even though he was the newest addition to the team. His final appearance on Fast and Loud came in 2017 with an episode titled Cruisin' for a Bruisin', which marked the end of his television run with the main show after just 2 years of occasional appearances. What makes this limited screen time even more remarkable is how quickly Charles managed to build a following among Fast and Loud fans who appreciated his humor, his expertise with electrical systems, and his willingness to show off with stunts like his famous backflip. The fact that Charles only appeared in 6 episodes over 2 years suggests that his role at Gas Monkey Garage might have been more behind the scenes than what television viewers got to see, or that the show's producers were selective about which projects and storylines they chose to feature him in. Many cast members who worked at Gas Monkey appeared in dozens or even hundreds of episodes, making Charles's brief but memorable television presence all the more unique in the show's 8-year history. After his Fast and Loud appearances ended, Charles did continue his television work by appearing on the spin-off show Master Mechanic, alongside his Gas Monkey colleagues Mike Coy and Jason Aker. Fact 7. Class clown reputation. While Charles Cimino was absolutely serious about his mechanical work and took pride in his expertise with electrical systems, he quickly earned a reputation as the Gas Monkey Garage class clown because of his naturally goofy personality and his willingness to entertain both his co-workers and the television cameras. This playful side of Charles created a perfect balance to his technical skills, making him someone who could handle the most complex wiring jobs while also keeping the atmosphere light and fun around the shop. Charles had a particular talent for doing funny accents and voices that would crack up the other mechanics during filming, and he wasn't shy about showing off this comedic ability when the cameras were rolling. His humor wasn't forced or put on for television either. It seemed to be a genuine part of his personality that came out naturally when he was comfortable around his Gas Monkey colleagues. The other cast members clearly enjoyed working with someone who could make them laugh during long days of intensive car restoration work. Beyond his vocal impressions and general goofiness, Charles also became known for pulling off occasional acrobatic stunts that amazed both his co-workers and Fast and Loud viewers. These physical comedy moments weren't planned or scripted. They just happened when Charles felt like showing off his athletic abilities or when the mood struck him to do something unexpected. His famous backflip off a burning pickup truck was just one example of how Charles would surprise everyone with his physical skills. What made Charles's class clown reputation so endearing was that it never interfered with his professional abilities or the quality of his work. He could be cracking jokes and entertaining everyone 1 minute, then immediately switch into serious mechanic mode when it was time to tackle a complicated electrical problem. This combination of technical expertise and entertaining personality made Charles a valuable addition to the Gas Monkey team, both for the actual restoration work and for the television show's entertainment value. His goofy nature and willingness to be the comic relief helped create some of the more memorable lighter moments during Fast and Loud episodes. Fact 8. The 19th of December birthday mystery. For a reality television personality who appeared on one of Discovery Channel's most popular shows, Charles Cimino has managed to keep some surprisingly basic personal information completely private, including his exact age and birth year. While fans know plenty about his mechanical skills and his time at Gas Monkey Garage, Charles has never publicly revealed when he was born or how old he is, creating an unusual mystery around such basic biographical details. The only clue about Charles's birthday comes from social media detective work that fans have done by following his friendships and online interactions. His friend Alex Laughlin, who has known Charles for years, posted a happy birthday message to Charles on Instagram that allowed fans to figure out that his birthday falls on December 19th. However, even with this social media evidence, nobody knows what year Charles was born, which means his actual age remains completely unknown to the public. This level of privacy is pretty unusual for someone who appeared on television and built a fan following, since most reality show cast members are pretty open about their personal details like age and background. Charles seems to have made a deliberate choice to keep certain aspects of his personal life private, even while sharing his professional skills and personality with Fast and Loud viewers. The fact that fans had to piece together even his birthday from secondhand social media posts shows just how careful Charles has been about controlling what information gets out about his personal life. Most celebrities and television personalities have their birth dates listed on websites like Wikipedia or IMDb, but Charles has managed to avoid having these basic details widely available online. This birthday mystery adds another layer to Charles's somewhat enigmatic presence in the Fast and Loud universe, where he appeared just long enough to make an impression on fans before disappearing from the show and leaving people with more questions than answers about his personal background. The December 19th birthday is literally the only concrete personal detail that fans have been able to confirm about Charles's life outside of his professional work. Fact 9. Father of two. Despite Charles Cimino's general preference for keeping his personal life private, one aspect of his family situation that has become public knowledge is that he's a devoted father to two children, a son named Ian and a daughter named Presley. This family man side of Charles adds a completely different dimension to his public persona beyond the sleeveless mechanic and class clown reputation that Fast and Loud viewers came to know during his time on the show. Having two children likely played a significant role in Charles's career decisions and his approach to work, especially considering the demanding schedule that comes with being part of a reality television production. Working at Gas Monkey Garage and filming for Fast and Loud required long hours and intense dedication to complicated automotive projects, which meant Charles had to balance his professional commitments with his responsibilities as a father to Ian and Presley. The names Ian and Presley suggest that Charles and his family have mainstream American naming preferences, with Presley potentially being a nod to the famous singer Elvis Presley, though Charles has never publicly discussed the origins or significance of his children's names. What's interesting is that despite being on television and having a public following through Fast and Loud, Charles has been very careful to keep his children completely out of the spotlight and away from his professional entertainment career. This protective approach to his family life shows a thoughtful side of Charles that fans didn't necessarily get to see during his brief television appearances, where the focus was primarily on his mechanical skills and entertaining personality. Many reality television personalities end up involving their families in their shows or social media presence, but Charles has maintained a clear separation between his public persona as Sleeveless the Mechanic and his private role as a father. The fact that Charles is raising two children also helps explain why he eventually moved away from the high-pressure environment of Gas Monkey Garage and television production to work independently in Arizona, where he might have more control over his schedule and work-life balance as a parent. Fact 10. Impossible Dart Build. Among all the complex automotive projects that Charles Cimino worked on during his time at Gas Monkey Garage, the build that he considered his proudest accomplishment was a 1967 Dodge Dart that had been written off by many people as an impossible restoration job. This particular Dart came to the shop in such rough condition that experienced mechanics and car enthusiasts looked at it and declared that it simply couldn't be saved or turned into anything worthwhile, making it the kind of challenge that most shops would have passed on entirely. The Dodge Dart project became Charles's favorite, not just because of the technical difficulties involved, but because it gave him the opportunity to prove wrong all the people who had said the car was beyond repair. Charles has always been someone who enjoys tackling electrical and fabrication challenges that other mechanics might avoid, and this Dart represented the ultimate test of his skills in both areas, since the car needed extensive wiring work alongside major structural repairs. What made this build so special for Charles was that he had the most fun building and wiring the Dart compared to any other project he worked on at Gas Monkey. The combination of complex electrical systems and the satisfaction of bringing a supposedly hopeless car back to life created the perfect project for someone with Charles's particular skill set and personality. He genuinely enjoyed the process of figuring out how to make all the systems work properly and seeing the car transform from a wreck into a functional, beautiful vehicle. The successful completion of the 1967 Dodge Dart became a defining moment in Charles's career because it demonstrated his ability to handle projects that other people considered impossible. When the finished car rolled out of Gas Monkey Garage, it served as proof that Charles's combination of electrical expertise, fabrication skills, and stubborn determination could overcome even the most challenging automotive restoration problems. This Dart build also showed that Charles was capable of taking on leadership roles for major projects and seeing them through to completion, which helped establish his reputation as one of Gas Monkey's most reliable and skilled mechanics. Fact 11. Fall Guy Dream Car. Charles Cimino's ultimate automotive fantasy isn't some exotic supercar or rare vintage muscle car. Instead, his lifetime career dream is to build a perfect replica of the K20 Silverado pickup truck from the 1980s television series The Fall Guy. This particular truck was driven by the show's main character, Colt Seavers, played by Lee Majors, who worked as a Hollywood stuntman and bounty hunter in the action-adventure series that ran from 1981 to 1986. The Fall Guy featured some of the most spectacular truck stunts ever filmed for television, with Colt Seavers using his modified pickup truck to perform incredible jumps, crashes, and high-speed chases that made the vehicle just as much of a star as the human actors. The truck itself was actually a GMC, but Charles specifically mentioned wanting to build the K20 Silverado version, which suggests he's thinking about creating his own interpretation rather than an exact replica of the original television prop. What makes this dream project so perfect for Charles is that it combines several of his greatest interests and skills of life. The truck would require extensive electrical work to handle all the lighting and special effects systems, plus the kind of heavy-duty fabrication and wiring that Charles specialized in during his time at Gas Monkey Garage. Building a proper Fall Guy truck would also involve creating systems that could handle the extreme stresses of stunt driving, which would be right up Charles's alley, given his love of both automotive challenges and acrobatic showing off. Charles has mentioned this K20 Silverado project in interviews as something he hopes to tackle someday when he has the time and resources to do it properly. The fact that this is his dream build rather than something more conventional shows how Charles thinks about cars differently than most mechanics. He's drawn to vehicles that combine technical complexity with entertainment value and pure fun factor. This Fall Guy truck dream also connects to Charles's own daredevil personality, since he's someone who enjoys performing stunts and showing off his athletic abilities just like the character Colt Seavers did in the television series. Fact 12. Master Mechanic Spin-off. Charles Cimino's television career didn't end completely when he made his final Fast and Loud appearance in 2017, LMNOs. Instead, he got a second chance to showcase his skills on camera through the spin-off show Fast and Loud, Master Mechanic, where he appeared alongside his former Gas Monkey colleagues Mike Coy and Jason Aker for 10 episodes. This spin-off gave Charles more screen time than he had ever gotten during his brief run on the main Fast and Loud series, allowing viewers to see more of his personality and technical abilities. Master Mechanic was designed as a retrospective show that featured some of Aaron Kaufman's best builds from his time at Gas Monkey Garage, but it also included new content with the remaining crew members working on various automotive projects. The show format gave Charles, Mike, and Jason the opportunity to demonstrate their skills without the pressure of Richard Rawlings and Aaron Kaufman being the main focus, which created a different dynamic than what viewers had seen on the original Fast and Loud episodes. For Charles specifically, appearing on Master Mechanic represented a chance to have a more substantial television presence after his limited appearances on the main show. 10 episodes was significantly more content than the 6 episodes he had appeared in during his entire Fast and Loud run, which meant fans finally got to see more of what Charles could do when given proper screen time and featured storylines. The spin-off aired in 2019 on the Discovery Channel, giving Charles another opportunity to connect with the Fast and Loud fan base and potentially build his own following among automotive television viewers. Working alongside Mike Coy and Jason Aker also meant Charles was collaborating with mechanics he already knew well from his Gas Monkey days, which likely made the filming process more comfortable and natural than it might have been with a completely new cast. Master Mechanic ultimately ran for just 1 season with 10 episodes, and there hasn't been any announcement about a second season, which means this spin-off represents Charles's final television work in the Fast and Loud universe. Fact 13. Arizona relocation. After spending his entire automotive career in the Dallas, Texas area, working at various local garages, and eventually at Gas Monkey Garage, Charles Cimino made a major life change by relocating to Scottsdale, Arizona, where he now operates as an independent mechanic, specializing in Ford Mustangs and other classic American vehicles. This move represents a complete shift from his previous role as part of a large, high-profile custom shop to working on his own terms as a solo automotive professional. Scottsdale proved to be an ideal location for Charles's independent operation because the Arizona climate is perfect for classic car enthusiasts and collectors who want to avoid the rust and weather damage that can plague vehicles in and other parts of the country. The area has a thriving car culture, with plenty of wealthy collectors and enthusiasts who are willing to pay for high-quality restoration and customization work, which creates a strong market for someone with Charles's electrical and fabrication skills. Charles has been particularly focused on working with Ford Mustangs since establishing his Arizona operation, which makes sense, given that Mustangs are among the most popular classic cars for restoration projects and modifications. His background in complex electrical systems and custom wiring makes him especially valuable for Mustang owners who want to upgrade their cars with modern conveniences while maintaining the classic appearance and feel of their vehicles. One of his recent projects that Charles has shared on social media was working on a 6R80 Bronco, which demonstrates that he's expanded beyond just Mustangs to include other Ford vehicles in his independent business. The 6R80 transmission is a modern 10-speed automatic that Ford uses in their current Bronco models, which shows that Charles is staying current with the latest automotive technology while also working on classic restoration projects. This independent approach gives Charles much more control over his work schedule and the types of projects he takes on compared to his days at Gas Monkey Garage, where the television production schedule and Richard Rawlings's business decisions ultimately determined what everyone worked on and when. Fact 14. Drives a lifted Yukon. While Charles Cimino spent his days at Gas Monkey Garage, working on exotic custom builds and classic muscle cars, his personal choice for a daily driver was much more practical and reflected his preference for reliable, capable vehicles that could handle both city driving and off-road adventures. Charles could regularly be spotted driving around Dallas in his lifted Chevrolet Yukon, which was a full-size SUV that had been modified with a suspension lift to give it better ground clearance and a more aggressive appearance. The choice to drive a lifted Yukon makes perfect sense for someone with Charles's lifestyle and personality, since the vehicle offered the space and capability he needed as a father of 2 children, while also reflecting his love of modified vehicles and his hands-on approach to automotive projects. A Yukon with a lift kit represents the kind of practical modification that improves the vehicle's off-road performance and gives it a distinctive look without being too flashy or impractical for everyday use. Charles's Yukon also demonstrated his preference for American-made vehicles, particularly General Motors products, which aligned well with the kinds of cars that Gas Monkey Garage typically worked on during his time there. The fact that he chose to modify his personal vehicle with a lift kit showed that Charles applied his mechanical interests to his own transportation, not just the customer cars that came through the shop. Having a lifted SUV as his daily driver also made practical sense for someone who worked in the automotive industry and might need to haul parts, tools, or equipment as part of his job. The Yukon's large cargo capacity and towing capability would have been useful for someone who was constantly involved in car projects and might need to transport automotive supplies or even tow vehicles from time to time. Fast and Loud fans who lived in the Dallas area during Charles's time at Gas Monkey Garage could sometimes spot him driving his distinctive lifted Yukon around town, which became one of the ways that local viewers could occasionally encounter cast members from their favorite show in real-world settings. Fact 15. Mysterious departure. Charles Cimino's exit from Gas Monkey Garage remains one of the most puzzling cast departures in Fast and Loud history, because he simply disappeared from the show and the shop without any public explanation from either Charles, himself, Richard Rawlings, or Discovery Channel. Unlike other cast members who left Gas Monkey under dramatic circumstances that were covered extensively in the media or featured on the show itself, Charles's departure was quiet and left fans with more questions than answers about what actually happened. When fans started noticing that Charles was no longer appearing in new Fast and Loud episodes or Gas Monkey social media content, there were no official announcements, farewell episodes, or behind-the-scenes drama that typically accompanies reality show cast changes. Charles simply stopped being part of the Gas Monkey world, and neither the shop nor the television production offered any explanation for his absence, which created speculation and curiosity among viewers who had enjoyed his brief but memorable time on screen. Charles has been very direct with fans who have reached out to him on social media, asking about his status with Gas Monkey Garage, telling them clearly that he works independently now and has no remaining affiliation with the famous shop. This straightforward response suggests that whatever happened between Charles and Gas Monkey was significant enough that he wants to make sure people understand there's no ongoing relationship or possibility of him returning to work there. The mysterious nature of Charles's departure becomes even more intriguing when you consider that he had long-time friendships with key Gas Monkey people like Aaron Kaufman, and he seemed to get along well with his co-workers during his time on the show. His complete separation from the Gas Monkey brand and his move to Arizona to start an independent operation suggests that something fundamental changed in his relationship with the shop or the television production that made continue there impossible or undesirable. Charles has also mentioned to fans that Gas Monkey Garage doesn't have any more people under its employ anymore, which adds another layer of mystery to the situation.